Nick Kypreos of Hockey Night in Canada. We're always buzzing when he joins us here on the show. Kipper, great to see you, brother. Is the Red Mile back? Is this Calgary story going to be around for a while here?
Yeah, I think it will be. They're pretty deep, and they showed why they're a top team in the Western Conference again last night. The only question, of course, was is the goaltending going to hold up, and who was that guy at the start of it all? And Mike Smith sent a pretty good message last night that it's his to run with, and we'll see where it goes. But he was spectacular. Specialty teams this time of year and great goaltending. And Calgary had both last night, and they didn't necessarily need their best players to be their best because Johnny Hockey and Sean Monahan, we know that they can score, but it was more of a meat and potatoes game last night with the likes of Hathaway and Mangiapane contributing in-depth roles. So a good start for Calgary.
I know fourth line talk isn't very sexy for the folks at home, but Bill Peters said earlier. Yeah, he said earlier this week, he goes, like, we don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, like we play our guys. And I thought that fourth line was honestly the difference. Hathaway drew the penalty. They got the first goal. I thought they were really, really good.
Energy guys. Yeah. And listen, it's almost as if it's a baseball season. You play, it feels like you play every night, but you've got to understand that if you're going to play for the next 7 or 8 weeks, that it is truly through the roster from number 1 to 22 or 23. There are guys that aren't playing in the first couple of games that will play an integral part in a team winning a Stanley Cup, I can assure you. This is the one sport where you just can't get away with 1 or 2 hot players. You need a ripple effect throughout your lineup, and that includes now the depth chart of 10, 11, 12 on the forward line, and of course on the back end, 5, 6, and 7 equally as important on the blue line. Totally takes a complete roster to win the Stanley Cup.
I was screaming, Calgary was screaming, and I thought you did a wonderful job pointing it out on Hockey Night in Canada and the NHL on Sportsnet. Nikita Zadorov almost changed the series, didn't he?
Yes. And there are guys in the roster. We don't see this much anymore like we did in the past, the message sending, but it was evident last night in the last few minutes. And Johnny Hockey was pretty lucky. I'm not sure whether or not he had a heads up from the bench or not. Zadorov could have put him out. And I thought Calgary responded the way they're supposed to respond. And we can't have this. We can't have players taking runs at our star players. That's where Sam Bennett comes in. James Neal, a wily veteran who can score goals, but he is one dirty SOB this time of year, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, if I'm
the only time of year when you can mean it in a good way is this time of year.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Kipper, let's go to the early game that happened last night. Honestly, Bergeron makes it 1-0, and you in the studio are thinking what?
Yeah, best line in hockey, right back at it. It was this time last year. I think they had, my memory serves me correct, 6 points in game 1 and 14 in game 2, and much different feel. You know, just even the fact that Bergeron got that power play goal gave many people a feel like, oh, are they going to do it again? But good on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought they looked a lot like the team that we saw early in the season with their speed game. The key for me, besides Marner doing what he did, was as a 6-man unit on the blue line, and I know you guys touched on the ice time earlier, nobody felt the need to do anything spectacular. They actually looked like a good 6-man unit. They did a nice job between the dots for Frederik Andersen. They started blocking shots again, like we saw earlier in the year, and they didn't spend that much time in their own zone. So not necessarily looking at Jake Gardiner to average 16.5 minutes, but there's no question when you pull his minutes down and you keep him away for maybe 24, 25 minutes, he becomes a much better defenseman.
Nick, I got to ask you because I thought Austin Matthews may have hit the nail on the head after the game when he was talking about the team's poise. Were you surprised at how much poise the team showed after Bergeron got him on the board?
Well, this is their third go-round here, right? I mean, they've got some experience under their belt, and it just seemed like, and I don't know whether or not they were just waiting for this and looked worse than they actually were in those last couple of weeks. But they looked like a team that's been there before, and that's what the experience of a couple of playoff rounds will do for you, and being disappointed. And let's face it, there's a lot more pressure on these guys. The expectation's higher, the bar's higher, and I thought they did a nice job of responding well. Now, saying that, didn't expect Boston to lie down the way they did. Don't expect them to lie down in Game 2. There'll be a bigger push here. Now, Boston at times were fantastic right up until that third week in March before they started sitting out some players. So I expect a much different look from the Boston Bruins, and the Leafs will have to respond accordingly.
One of the quick things I noticed in the postgame was the Boston reporters just peppering the Bruins about the physicality of the Leafs. I mean, Trevor Moore laying out Zdeno Chara. Like, do you expect that Boston comes back and gets real grimy in this game too?
Well, I think that would be a good start, and if possible, maybe a way to even slow down the Toronto Maple Leafs. But ultimately, that's not their game. And I've loved Moore right out of training camp, and good on the Leafs for finding a regular spot for him, because that's the type of stuff. And I know this hit's been played an awful lot, and that's a good look for Toronto Maple Leaf fans when they see a guy like Chara go down like this. And one that they hope to see throughout the series here. But you're not going to run the Boston Bruins out. You're ultimately going to beat them much like you beat them in Game 1, and that is coming through the neutral zone with a lot of speed and a lot of confidence. Kuraly hurts them, boys. He's a good hockey player, a heavy hockey player, and I don't think they'll possibly get to see him too much later in the series, and it'd be best if the Leafs could mount a nice, comfortable lead before that happens, possibly in Game 5.
I know we're 2 nights in, Kipper, but you and the panel right now in mid-postseason form, doing a bang-up job. Enjoy the Jets game tonight. Have a great weekend, man. We appreciate it.
All right. Here we go again.